this afternoon is Emma Lynn Foster. Emma Lynn lives in Iowa City and attends Solon High School. She's the daughter of Kelly and Steve Foster. The title of her project is Planting the Seeds of Sustainability. Emma?
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for coming. My name is Emily Foster, and my project, Planting the Seeds of Sustainability, installed a school garden at my elementary school centered around environmental education. Older men declare war, but it is youth that must fight and die. Herbert Hoover. Now, this quote may seem a bit dramatic for a presentation about a school garden, but it does accurately illustrate the situation my generation is in regarding climate change. For years, humans have lived off of the planet's resources, taking what we wanted and leaving what we didn't. As civilizations progressed and newer technologies were developed, we began to have a negative impact on the environment, polluting the water, air, and soil. Fast forward to today, the 21st century, we have to work to reverse this momentum that's been created over the centuries and to fight for a more sustainable future. The environment has always been an interest of mine, and I look for ways I can make a difference to feel like I'm contributing to this better, sustainable future. My family's pretty eco-conscious, but I realized that I hadn't really made a difference outside of my own home. The Uncommon Student Award program finally gave me the opportunity to put my passion into action and teach people about living sustainably. Putting all of these ideas together, I started an annual school garden at my elementary school to educate kids about growing their own food, healthy eating, and environmental issues through a fun, hands-on experience. I'm getting slightly ahead of myself, however, so let me take you back to the very beginning of this journey. I came across the Uncommon Student Award program in February of 2020, which seems like a very long time ago. My former teacher, Mr. Kopecki, had handed me a brochure from that foundation outlining the award and what kinds of projects to do. That was really when the wheels of my project started to turn. I had always had a passion for outdoors and conservation, and this seemed like a great opportunity to put that passion to work. That night, I showed the brochure to my mom and looked at more information on the foundation's website. We brainstormed project ideas and finally settled on a school garden. It had the potential to teach so many different lessons, and it was a fun outdoor activity that I thought would be interesting and engaging for younger students. As I began organizing the project, I outlined the goals I wanted to accomplish. First and foremost, I wanted to teach kids about climate change and what we can do to help fight for a more sustainable future. I wanted to provide an entertaining outdoor activity that could start conversations beyond our small group that was participating. I wanted to expose students to the food production process. And finally, I wanted to design a project template or project design that could be replicated elsewhere if other schools or organizations wanted to do something similar. My presentation also relates to the works of Herbert Hoover, mostly relating to food production. So Hoover led multiple food distribution programs throughout his life and throughout his professional life, including the Commission for Relief in Belgium, the Food Administration, and the American Relief Administration. World War I had created a global food crisis, and it was Hoover's job at that time to make sure that the Allied powers had enough supplies, and he also sought to stabilize food prices within the country to prevent shortages. My community is not in a food crisis, so I didn't have nearly as much pressure on me as Hoover did, but my project still communicates the same goals and ideals as Hoover's work. With the growing threat of climate change, it's important to keep supplies accessible and control what we can, and making sure your family has food can be done in your very own backyard. In late February, I got the ball rolling with my project and contacted Amber Feeker, the director of the elementary school before and after school program. I decided to work with BASP because there were a ton of kids there already, and it was an easy way to reach them without having to have parents chauffeur their kids around to another activity throughout the week. Amber was really excited, and we agreed to start the garden towards the end of the school year, possibly having me come in after school throughout April and May. I was also able to support another student project by purchasing a handmade garden bed. Nolan Patterson and Cam Miller built the beds with materials from Kelowna, Iowa, and I'm very thankful to them that they were able to help support my project in that way. I'd also like to thank the Solon High School Octagon Club who gave a donation to my project, and I would not be able to accomplish anything that my project did without their generous donation. So with all of these factors lined up and out of the way, I was feeling ready and excited. Then we arrived at March 13th. The president declared the coronavirus outbreak a national emergency, and just like that, our lives all changed. Businesses everywhere shut down, people wore masks in the grocery store, and schools were closed. We didn't end up going back to school at all that year, so this threw a slight wrench in my plans. I was still very lucky that I could move forward with my project, as VASP would still be open for childcare throughout the summer. Instead of starting in April, I met with VASP for the first time in June. Because I had lost about 2 months of work time, we needed to reevaluate a few things. I had to narrow down my list of activities because we simply just didn't have time to do everything. So this meant scrapping my plan to create a composting system that I was really excited about. And we decided instead to focus solely on planting, harvesting, and managing the garden to produce some fruits and vegetables. For the first couple days I was working with the kids, we did some fun arts and crafts activities and some other introductory lessons. We made a mural of what we wanted the garden to look like, and they kind of put some ideas on there of what they wanted to plant. And that was hung up in the school. And then we also made we painted rocks to decorate the garden and made some bird feeders out of Cheerios. And I think they all really enjoyed these activities. In July, we finally started to plant some of our garden. We started some of the plants in smaller containers that would later be transplanted once the entire garden bed was ready. The kids had a fun time doing this by themselves, and I think they liked kind of feeling independent, like they were doing something of importance. And they really liked learning about how to take care of the plants and all the maintenance that's required to help the plants grow. We also did some outside when it was nice out, and they got to learn about the plants that they were planting. As you can see in the middle picture, she's reading some information about the plants that she was planting. Then it was finally time. After sitting in their small plastic containers for far too long, our plants were put in the ground. Planting day was super fun, and I was actually able to spread it out over a few days to involve more kids. And VASP had reached their second session of the summer, so that meant there were a lot more kids there every day, which was really nice for me because we were able to get a lot more accomplished. And I was able to interact with more kids and expose them to the project, so hopefully they'd come back later wanting to participate again. The plants were looking a little sad when we planted them, so we made sure to water them a lot. I was kind of nervous for the next couple of weeks because I didn't know if we had waited too long or if the plants would even make it. The kids were really enthusiastic, however, so I did what I could and we just watered religiously for a while. Somehow our little plants pulled through, and by September, we had this. Our garden had endured a lot up to this point, from the dry August weeks to the derecho storm with over 100-mile-per-hour winds. We were very lucky and none of our plants were torn out and we didn't have any damage. We did lose about a week of work, however, because no one in the area had power, so VASP was shut down for a little bit, but we got through it and went into September feeling pretty good. I had planned to only work with the summer VASP kids, but with our adjusted timeline, I ended up keeping the garden going all the way through October, so I just stopped going a few weeks ago. Once school started, I went to the elementary school every week for 2 days, right after I got done with classes. This is when we started to see some vegetables, which was really exciting, and it kind of provided us and the kids with a good motivation to keep going and get to the harvest day. Once the produce was ready, the kids were able to pick what they wanted and eat it as an after-school snack. Pole beans were a fan favorite. They really liked those. And then once our cherry tomatoes were ready, that was also a go-to. On our big harvest day, we picked all of the produce that was left. So this was mostly tomatoes at this point. But because we had started the garden later than I had planned, we were a bit delayed, and it was starting to get cold out, so we decided to pick all the rest of the tomatoes while they were unripe, because I didn't want them to be killed by frost, and I didn't think they would have time to ripen on the vine by themselves. So we decided to pick them while they were unripe, and instead we found some recipes that would work with green tomatoes instead of ripe tomatoes. So with all of our harvested produce, we made some homemade pesto, homemade refrigerator pickles, and some delicious green salsa. Everyone that helped make the food got to take some home and share it with their families. And this helped accomplish one of my goals, which was to have the kids see the process their food goes through to get to their table. They loved the thought of using vegetables that they harvested to make their food, and I'm sure it also tasted a little better. So why did this garden matter? As I looked back through pictures from the past couple months, I was able to reflect on what this project had accomplished. In June, I set out to educate kids about our environment, healthy living, and sustainability. Throughout the summer and fall, they learned about the rising threat of climate change and what they can do to help combat it. With the right resources, growing some of your own food is such an easy way to make a big difference. I hoped that this garden would serve as a conversation starter, getting more kids involved with how their food is produced. By talking with parents and school administration, I hoped our message and experience would spread beyond our small group and hopefully affect the lives of other people. I'm very happy with what we've accomplished through this garden, and I can't wait to see how it continues in the future. I kept detailed notes of the process, so this can serve as a template. But as for my school, the garden bed will stay put, and high school students will continue to manage it, hopefully for years to come. Now, you've heard everything I have to say about this project, but let's hear from the kids.
We're always better when you're growing from your own garden. That is a true thing. Because the ingredients are tasty. And we are very nutritious. You gotta forget that. 3, 2, next one. The garden. This one. We've learned that making salsa is actually good because you make salsa, it's nutritious. Exactly. This is made out of fresh tomatoes.
Thank you so much.
I have a question. Did you get any publicity? Did the newspaper do an article on you, or did you?
Yeah, our local newspaper did do an article about my project and Kennedy Bombi, who went earlier in the day. We actually go to the same school, so they did an article about just that, about our projects and what we were planning to do before we actually started the projects.
Easy. What does FAST stand for?
Oh, before and after school program, the ASP.
Okay. And have you given thought, you did it June 5th, World Environment Day. What about April 22nd, which is birthday?
Yeah.
In the USA.
I had planned to come in throughout April and May, but because we didn't have school, the ASP wasn't open yet because we were still doing virtual learning. So everything got kind of pushed back a little bit.
So, Emmeline, thank you.